The world is ruled not by saints, but by strategists. If you ever wondered why the wealthy stay untouchable while others drown in debt, the answer is simple. They play a different game, a game of deception, psychology, and ruthless traps. Today, Niccolò Machiavelli will unmask the 7 wealth traps that billionaires use to dominate societies. If you do not learn to see these chains, you will remain bound by them forever. Power, my friends, is not built upon abundance. It is not created by offering plenty. Rather, it is forged by making the many believe that what is common is rare, and what is accessible is unattainable. This is the oldest trick of rulers, merchants, and now billionaires. They do not simply control resources, they control perception. And perception is more powerful than truth. Consider this: the earth is filled with grain, with food, with water, and yet men starve. Is it because the earth cannot provide? No, it is because someone, somewhere, has declared that what is abundant must be treated as scarce. Crops are destroyed to maintain price. Warehouses overflow with goods, yet the people outside their doors are told to pay more or to go without. You see, wealth is not found in the abundance of a thing, but in its restriction. The power of the elite lies in convincing you that what you need is running out, even when it is not. Observe the marketplace of modern kings, the corporations. Oil, diamonds, technology, even ideas themselves are placed behind locked doors, released only in measured drops, like water in a desert. You pay not for the thing itself, but for the illusion that you may lose it if you hesitate. The scarcity is manufactured, and yet the fear it breeds is very real. That fear drives men to compete, to fight one another, to crawl for scraps, while those who engineered the scarcity sit in comfort above the struggle. It is a clever strategy, for it ensures the masses never raise their eyes to the throne, but keep them fixed on the crumbs. Even time, that eternal force, has been weaponized. Think of how billionaires speak limited, time offers, exclusive access, last chance. These are the chants of modern scarcity. The herd is told to act quickly, to surrender wealth in haste, fearing that hesitation means loss. And in that rush, they forget to question whether scarcity truly exists at all. What you call urgency is merely orchestration. What you call a deadline is merely design. Now, reflect upon knowledge. It is abundant. Words are written, ideas shared, libraries vast. Yet how many have access to it? The wealthy build gates, walls of education, certifications, and titles. The wisdom that could free you is declared rare, costly, reserved for the few. And you, believing knowledge to be a scarce treasure, pay endlessly for it, or worse, remain without it. Understand this clearly: it is not scarcity that imprisons you, but the belief in scarcity. The chains exist in the mind before they exist in the world. Scarcity also breeds desire. Why do you crave what is forbidden? Why does the jewel locked behind glass shine brighter than the one in your hand? Because men are ruled not by logic, but by longing. Billionaires understand this perfectly. They make you believe something is slipping from your grasp, and instantly you want it more. The perfume that sells for gold is worth nothing but its fragrance. Yet because it is wrapped in the illusion of rarity, the world clamors for it. Desire is not born from the object, but from the scarcity painted upon it. History itself testifies to this truth. Rome once hoarded grain, releasing it only when it pleased the rulers. The people became dependent, their hunger easily controlled. The Venetians manipulated the spice trade, raising prices by keeping supply artificially low while their warehouses brimmed with product. Today's billionaires have inherited the same art, but dressed it in modern clothes. Technology companies, for example, release their inventions not all at once, but piece by piece, ensuring you always believe the newest, rarest model is the most precious. In reality, they could flood the world with abundance, but they choose delay, ration, scarcity, because scarcity guarantees obedience. Understand this principle, and you begin to see through the shadows. Scarcity is not the natural state of the world. It is the crafted stage upon which power performs its greatest play. The wealthy know that if men were to see abundance for what it truly is, if they were to realize that resources, knowledge, and opportunities are not so rare as they appear, then control would crumble. For when men are full, they do not kneel. But when they believe they are starving, they bow their heads to anyone who offers bread. Think also of competition. Why do men fight like wolves for opportunities? Because they are told there are few. Yet in truth, the opportunities are many, but hidden, misdirected, or deliberately withheld. Billionaires pit the masses against one another, like gladiators in an arena, making them believe there can only be one victor. While the people bleed in combat, the wealthy watch from above, amused, secure, untouched. This is the genius of scarcity. It blinds the many and empowers the few. Loyalty, my friends, is the sweetest poison the powerful ever brewed. It appears noble, it appears virtuous, but in the hands of billionaires it becomes a chain. Understand this: loyalty is rarely rewarded with freedom. It is rewarded with dependence, with servitude, with blindness. The wealthy know this truth well, and they exploit it without mercy. Consider the ordinary man who serves a master, a company, or a leader. He believes that his loyalty will be remembered, that his dedication will one day lift him to security. Yet history shows that loyalty is seldom repaid. Kings executed their most faithful generals the moment suspicion arose. Merchants discarded their most loyal servants the instant they became expendable. And today, billionaires use the same principle. They demand loyalty from their workers, their followers, their consumers, yet they themselves remain loyal to no one but their own ambition. Look at the corporations of our age. Employees dedicate years, even decades, giving their health, their time, their very lives in service. They attend meetings, sacrifice family, and obey without question. And when the winds change, when profit demands it, they are dismissed, cast aside without honor, without gratitude. This is the trap. Loyalty is cultivated not because it elevates you, but because it ensures your obedience. It blinds you to betrayal until the knife is already at your back. But the illusion of loyalty is maintained with rewards. Small, carefully measured tokens to keep you believing. A promotion here, a title there, perhaps the illusion of belonging, of being part of something greater. These are not gifts, they are shackles. They bind you more deeply, for you begin to believe your loyalty has value, that it distinguishes you. Yet to the billionaire, your loyalty is nothing but a tool, discarded when it ceases to serve. Think also of the masses who swear loyalty to brands, to institutions, to men of wealth. They wear symbols, speak slogans, and defend their masters as if they were defending their own blood. How convenient it is for the powerful that the people pledge loyalty to illusions. For when they do, they will defend even their own exploitation. They will justify the cruelty of their masters, insisting it is deserved, that it must be so. Loyalty turns the victim into a defender of the very system that enslaves him. There is another dimension to this trap, more insidious still. Billionaires foster loyalty by creating rivalry. They encourage groups to compete for their approval, making them believe only the most loyal will survive. Workers compete to prove themselves indispensable. Consumers compete to show who is most faithful to a brand. Followers compete to display who is most obedient. And in this competition, the powerful need do nothing. They simply sit back while the loyal tear one another apart for favor. In the end, only the billionaire wins, for the struggle of the loyal strengthens his throne. History whispers countless examples of this strategy. Princes demanded loyalty oaths from their nobles, not because they trusted them, but because once sworn, the noble became ensnared in honor. To break that oath meant dishonor, disgrace, even death. Today, the oath has changed form. It is a contract, a company policy, a public declaration of allegiance. Break it, and you are shamed, punished, cast out. Obey it, and you remain a servant. Loyalty is the snare either way for once pledged. It is difficult to withdraw. The wealthy also know that loyalty must be tested. A master will deliberately place his servant in positions of discomfort, demanding sacrifice, demanding proof. The more you give, the deeper the hook sinks. You sacrifice hours, you sacrifice freedom, you sacrifice dignity, and each sacrifice convinces you that your loyalty must mean something. You tell yourself the reward is near, but the truth is this: every sacrifice only proves you can be made to give more. And so the chain tightens, link by link, until you forget what freedom even feels like. But perhaps the cruelest part of this trap is how loyalty exploits human nature. For men crave belonging. They desire to be seen, to be valued, to be part of a cause larger than themselves. The billionaire understands this hunger and feeds it with false promises. He speaks of family, of community, of loyalty as if it were sacred. But behind the words lies only calculation. To him, loyalty is not sacred, it is useful. It is the means by which he ensures that you, willingly and proudly, remain beneath his boot. The wealth of the powerful is not guarded by vaults of steel, nor by soldiers at the gate, but by silence. Secrets are the invisible chains of empire, and billionaires wield them more effectively than any king or pope in history. Understand this: knowledge is power, and silence is the weapon that preserves it. Look around you. The common man drowns in noise, endless chatter, gossip, distractions that fill his days and nights. He speaks too freely, reveals too much, squanders his thoughts for nothing. But the wealthy, they listen, they observe. They hoard knowledge in silence, and they never waste words that might betray their advantage. This is why their power grows. For he who speaks recklessly loses influence, while he who listens quietly gathers the tools of domination. Consider the realm of finance. There are secrets hidden behind closed doors, tax havens, offshore accounts, private banking systems designed not for the many, but for the few. These secrets are not written in newspapers, nor taught in schools. They are whispered in private meetings, passed down through quiet networks of lawyers and advisors. And while the masses are told to save pennies, to work harder, to obey the rules, the wealthy manipulate entire systems through hidden knowledge. The silence of secrets is the fortress that shields their empires. But do not think secrets are only about money. They extend to influence, to politics, to the control of societies. The masses believe they are free, but freedom itself is often an illusion, carefully maintained by the secrecy of those who pull strings behind curtains. A law is passed, and no one asks who whispered it into existence. A war begins, and no one questions who profits from the fire. Silence protects the hand that moves the pieces. The people see only the board, never the player. There is a reason, my friends, that the powerful are never loud. They do not reveal their true thoughts, their true intentions, until the trap is already sprung. They smile, they flatter, they nod politely, while concealing their true designs. Their silence makes them unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable. And those who cannot be read, cannot be controlled. To remain silent when others demand explanation is itself an act of power, for it forces the world to guess, to assume, to tremble in uncertainty. Think also of history. Monarchs kept their counsels secret, their strategies hidden. They allowed only fragments of truth to escape, fragments carefully chosen to deceive rivals. When kings revealed too much, when they spoke too freely, their enemies sharpened blades in the shadows. But those who guarded secrets, those who surrounded themselves with silence, were feared. For silence breeds mystery, and mystery breeds awe. The wealthy of today follow this same tradition. Their foundations, their investments, their motives, all shrouded in silence, while the people are fed distractions to keep them docile. The irony, of course, is that the masses despise silence. They cannot endure the weight of mystery, so they fill it with noise. They invent stories, conspiracies, explanations, never realizing that their guesses only serve the powerful further. A man who controls his secrets does not need to speak the truth, because the world will invent 10,000 truths for him. In this way, Silence multiplies power, for it gives the wealthy the luxury of letting others do their work of deception. Observe the stage of business negotiations. The man who speaks first reveals his weakness. He spills his desperation, his need, his price. But the billionaire waits in silence, letting the other reveal everything. The silence is uncomfortable, unbearable to most, and in that discomfort they surrender. They lower their guard. They confess what should have been hidden. Thus silence conquers without force. Secrets win without battle. But there is a greater danger in secrets: the inequality of knowledge. The masses believe the world is fair because they do not see what is hidden. They imagine that the rules are equal, that everyone has the same chance to succeed. This belief is the result of ignorance. The secrets of wealth creation, of influence, of manipulation, are deliberately concealed from them. Schools teach obedience, not strategy. Media teaches distraction, not truth. And in this void of knowledge, the masses compete with one another, blindfolded, while the wealthy move freely in daylight. Secrecy also creates dependence. For when you do not know, you must rely on those who do. When the game is hidden, you must trust the dealer. This is how billionaires position themselves, not as mere rulers, but as the keepers of knowledge. And as long as they remain the custodians of silence, they remain indispensable. Men will follow them, obey them, even worship them, because they believe they hold truths too complex, too hidden for ordinary minds to grasp. Morality, my friends, is the most exquisite poison ever poured into the cup of mankind. Sweet to the tongue, noble in appearance, yet fatal when swallowed without caution. The powerful know this well, and billionaires wield morality not as a compass, but as a weapon. They preach virtue while practicing vice, command purity while feasting on corruption, and all the while, the masses remain shackled by rules that their masters never obey. Think of the sermons you have heard from the lips of the wealthy. They speak of fairness, of integrity, of the importance of playing by the rules. They tell you to work hard, to obey laws, to act with honor. These words sound righteous, but they are traps designed to weaken you. For while you waste time clinging to principles, your rivals who understand the game move ahead without hesitation. The rich know this secret: morality is not universal, it is selective. It is a costume, to be worn when it serves power and discarded when it does not. Consider the laws of commerce. Corporations demand loyalty from their workers, insisting that honesty and compliance are virtues. They speak of ethical codes and moral obligations. Yet these same corporations exploit loopholes, evade taxes, crush smaller rivals, and poison the environment without hesitation. They smile as they speak of morality to you, but behind the curtain, they sharpen their knives. The lesson is clear: morality is not practiced equally. It is imposed downward upon the weak, while the strong exempt themselves. History is filled with such examples. The church once wielded morality as a weapon, demanding obedience, chastity, and sacrifice from the peasants, while its leaders bathed in gold and indulged in pleasures forbidden to others. Kings justified their conquests as holy, while they slaughtered without remorse. And today's billionaires follow the same design. They fund campaigns about justice, equality, and fairness, yet their fortunes are built upon ruthless exploitation. Their morality is never genuine. It is a mask, painted to keep the people docile. Do you not see the genius in this? When the poor cling to morality, they hesitate. They second-guess their ambition. They restrain their desires because they fear appearing greedy, selfish, or cruel. Meanwhile, the wealthy abandon such fears. They understand that to hesitate in the pursuit of power is to lose it. So they urge you to be moral, knowing that morality will slow you, weaken you, and keep you obedient. This is the poison of morality. It is not meant to protect you, but to disarm you. Think also of how morality is weaponized in the court of public opinion. A billionaire caught in corruption does not fall. He simply reframes his actions, hires voices to excuse him, or distracts the world with another spectacle. But when an ordinary man falters, morality crushes him without mercy. He is judged, ridiculed, ruined for violating standards that his rulers never obey themselves. This imbalance is intentional, for morality serves power only when it is used selectively as a sword against enemies and a shield for allies. Even nations are not free of this poison. Great powers speak of human rights and justice, yet wage wars and exploit weaker lands under the cloak of morality. They declare themselves righteous saviors, all while bleeding nations dry. This hypocrisy is not accidental. It is the very essence of how morality functions in politics. The moral high ground is simply the stage from which conquest is justified, and those who still believe morality to be pure are nothing more than pawns in a game of rhetoric. But what of the individual? Here lies the cruelest truth of all. Men who cling too tightly to morality become predictable. They can be manipulated, trapped, and broken because their behavior follows principles that never change. The wealthy exploit this predictability. They know you will act honorably, even when it destroys you. They know you will hesitate to betray, even when betrayal would save you. They know you will stay silent rather than deceive, even when silence costs you everything. This is why morality is poison. It gives your enemies a map of your behavior, while they themselves remain unreadable. And yet, morality retains its illusion of nobility. Why? Because men fear chaos. They fear a world without rules, so they cling to morality as if it were a lifeline. Billionaires understand this fear and feed it. They speak of morality endlessly because they know the people crave certainty. They crave the illusion of justice, even if justice never comes. By giving them morality, the powerful give them comfort, while quietly ensuring that morality keeps them weak. If you wish to understand how the powerful keep men subdued, look not at chains, nor at swords, but at pleasures. For nothing enslaves the spirit so effectively as comfort, indulgence, and distraction. The ancients of Rome understood this well. They called it bread and circuses. Keep the people fed, keep them entertained, and they will forget that they are captives. Today, billionaires have perfected this art, forging a prison not of iron, but of amusement. Think of how men live their days. They wake, they labor, they return weary, and what awaits them? Endless screens, games, spectacles of sport, music, drama, indulgences of the flesh and the mind. These distractions are not innocent. They are tools designed to dull the will to question, to struggle, to rise. A man who is entertained is a man who does not revolt. A man who is comfortable is a man who does not conspire. This is why pleasure, more than pain, keeps empires intact. Do not mistake me, pleasure itself is not evil. But when it is used as a weapon, when it is crafted deliberately to ensnare, it becomes the deadliest of traps. Billionaires do not simply offer luxury to the masses, they design desires. They create needs where none existed. They flood the world with diversions that demand your attention until the fire of ambition burns low. A man who might have risen, who might have sought power, instead drowns in indulgence. He consumes, but he does not conquer. Observe how carefully this web is spun. Entire industries are built not to serve necessity, but to captivate attention. Technology that could liberate is instead used to addict. Food that could nourish is engineered to overindulge. Leisure that could refresh is twisted into obsession. The result is a society of men too distracted to notice the chains tightening around them. They laugh, they cheer, they scroll endlessly, never asking why. They feel empty even as they consume more than ever. This is not accidental. It is deliberate strategy. For a man with ambition is dangerous. He asks questions, he sees injustices, he plots against those above him. But a man lost in pleasure, he is harmless. He seeks only his next indulgence, never realizing that his time, his energy, his very life is being stolen. In this way, pleasure becomes a leash around the neck of the masses, pulled gently by those who profit from their distraction. History offers its testimony. Emperors of Rome fed their citizens not with justice, but with spectacles. Gladiators fought, beasts roared, and the people, though crushed by taxes and tyranny, cheered as if they were free. The illusion of joy was enough to silence rebellion. And today, billionaires command even greater circuses. Entertainment that travels in every pocket, endless images, endless noise. Bread and circuses were once bound to a city. Now they are bound to the entire globe. But the cleverness of the distraction lies not only in abundance, but in endless novelty. Pleasure loses its hold if it remains the same. So the wealthy ensure that there is always something new, something more extreme, more enticing, more consuming. The masses run endlessly from one distraction to another, never satisfied, never still. For in stillness they might think, and in thought they might awaken. This awakening is the enemy of power, so distraction must never end. Ask yourself, why is it that those who control industries of entertainment, of luxury, of indulgence, rise to the highest ranks of wealth? It is because they do not merely sell goods, they sell obedience. They create populations too softened to challenge them. Men who spend fortunes on pleasure will never spend effort on rebellion. They will kneel willingly, for the price of their servitude is comfort. And consider the greatest irony. The very pleasures that are used to distract the masses are denied in excess to the rulers themselves. Have you not noticed? The most powerful do not drown in indulgence. They abstain, they restrain, they discipline. They sell to you what they themselves consume in moderation, for they know that excess corrupts the mind, weakens the will, makes men foolish. They feed you the poison, but sip only the smallest taste themselves, enough to remind them of its effect, but never enough to lose control. Pleasure also carries with it another cunning effect. It creates dependency. A man who has tasted luxury will do anything to keep it. He will compromise his freedom, his dignity, even his morality, if only to preserve the comfort he has grown accustomed to. And so the wealthy design luxuries that enslave, desires that demand obedience. A population addicted to pleasure becomes a population too fearful to lose it. Better to serve quietly than to risk discomfort. Better to obey than to be stripped of indulgence. Chains, my friends, are no longer made of iron. They are made of contracts, of debts, of systems so intricate that men believe them to be natural. This is the new art of rule, not to imprison bodies, but to weave dependencies so subtle, so vast, that men imprison themselves. Billionaires understand this better than any king of the past. They do not rule by force. They rule by making you need them. Reflect on the structure of work. Once, men toiled for survival, tilling fields, hunting game, owning the fruits of their labor. Now, they labor not for themselves, but for wages dispensed by those above them. Entire lives are built upon the salary, the paycheck, the promotion that may or may not come. This is not freedom, it is dependency. The worker cannot rebel, for rebellion means hunger. He cannot escape, for escape means ruin. The system is designed so that his very survival depends upon loyalty to masters he may never meet. This, I tell you, is a web more secure than any dungeon. Debt is another thread woven with equal cunning. Credit cards, loans, mortgages, chains disguised as gifts. A man believes he owns a house, but in truth, the bank owns him. He believes he is free to purchase, but every purchase binds him tighter. Debt ensures that he will continue working, continue obeying, continue feeding the system, long after his will is broken. And should he falter, should he fail to comply, his possessions are stripped from him, leaving him naked and desperate. This dependency is not accidental. It is carefully engineered, for a man in debt is a man easily controlled. Even the luxuries you enjoy are not truly yours. Technology, devices, services, you do not own them, you rent them, subscribe to them, borrow access for a fee, miss a payment, and they vanish. This is the brilliance of dependency in the modern age. The powerful no longer need to confiscate your possessions. They simply hold the key and let you live in constant fear of losing it. You are allowed access, but never control. But the web is not woven only of money. it is woven also of convenience. The powerful have designed a world where men no longer know how to live without them. They cannot cook without packaged goods, cannot travel without vehicles they do not build, cannot even think without devices they do not own. This loss of self-sufficiency is deliberate. For the less you can do for yourself, the more you must rely on those who rule over you. Dependency breeds obedience, and obedience sustains power. Observe how this strategy shapes entire societies. Nations themselves are caught in webs of dependency. Weaker countries rely on stronger ones for food, for fuel, for technology. They cannot defy their masters, for to do so would mean starvation, isolation, collapse. And so, the powerful control not only individuals but entire peoples, weaving dependency across borders, across oceans, until even governments kneel to unseen rulers who supply their survival. The web also extends into knowledge. Think of education, of medicine, of law. These are presented as gifts of civilization, but access is controlled, guarded, rationed. The common man cannot heal himself, cannot defend himself, cannot even rise without permission from institutions controlled by the wealthy. He must beg for access, pay endlessly for permission, obey every demand. His ignorance is not an accident, it is cultivated. For the more helpless he feels, the more grateful he is for the crumbs of knowledge he is allowed. And yet, what makes this web so unbreakable is not just necessity, but comfort. The powerful do not merely bind you with needs, they bind you with desires. You crave luxuries, entertainments, conveniences, until life without them seems unbearable. And so you surrender freedom willingly, trading independence for pleasure, never realizing that the exchange is fatal. A man who cannot live without luxury is more enslaved than a man in chains, for he will defend his captor rather than risk discomfort. The cleverest part of the web is that it feels invisible. Men do not see themselves as captives. They believe they are free because they can choose between brands, between banks, between employers. But all choices lead to the same masters, the same system, the same dependency. Freedom is an illusion carefully painted over captivity, and because the prison is invisible, the prisoner never seeks to escape. He laughs, he consumes, he works, never realizing that every step only tangles him deeper in the web. In the end, my friends, what we have uncovered is not merely the power of wealth, but the power of design. The rich do not stumble upon their fortune, they engineer it. They build castles not of stone, but of influence. They do not conquer with swords, but with silence, strategy, and dependency. Their strength lies not in their generosity, but in the illusions they create, the mask of benevolence, the theater of choice, the invisible chains of need. You see, the greatest trick the powerful have ever played is convincing the world that their rise was destiny, when in truth it was calculation. Every move is deliberate, every weakness in others exploited, every system bent to ensure not just survival, but domination. They do not simply play the game, they write the rules and then persuade you to thank them for it. What, then, is the lesson for those of us who walk in their shadow? It is not to envy nor to despair, but to awaken. To see the webs where others see freedom, to recognize the masks where others see kindness, to understand that power is never given, only taken, and that those who would rise must learn not only to resist the deceptions of the mighty, but to weave their own. For history does not remember the passive. It remembers the rulers, the architects, the cunning few who understood that life is not about fairness, but about control. Whether you are to be ensnared in another's web, or whether you will weave one of your own. That choice, my friends, is the only true freedom you are given.